Coming up, who says Brexit is yesterday's news? Just this week, there's a triumvirate of Brexit bad news stories. First, a report by Aston University which found that post-Brexit trade between the UK and the EU has dropped around 30% due to Brexit red tape for British businesses. Secondly, Liz Truss's Brexit blunder, failing to exclude shipbuilding from Brexit trade rules, which will end up costing £300 million, while the setbacks will make operations relating to small boat crossings in the Channel much harder. And if that wasn't bad enough, plans have now been revealed to stack thousands of cars in Dover to avert chaos on the roads of Kent once the new post-Brexit European Entry-exit system starts in November. According to a study by Aston University's business school, there was a 27% decrease in UK goods exports, with imported goods 32% lower than where they would have been if Britain hadn't left the EU. Yet still, 8 years on from the advisory referendum, our most senior politicians on both sides of the House of Commons are still in denial about the negative impact of Brexit, as are many of the people who voted leave. Still saying, you can't trust what the remaining universities are telling us, what the Financial Times is insisting is the truth about the harm caused by Brexit to our economy. Brexit hasn't even happened yet, don't you know, according to the residue of the Brexit cult. You shouldn't believe reality. You shouldn't believe the evidence of your own eyes. The truth is that many small UK producers and service providers have given up exporting to the European Union altogether because of all the extra post-Brexit rules and regulations. I know because I'm one of them. I used to supply actors to English-speaking theatres and film sets all over Europe until Brexit put the kibosh on it. But no, the remaining Brexit cultists don't want to listen to the facts. They just know that the German economy is not doing so well, so that must mean that Brexit was a good idea, right? Well, while the UK was a member of the EU, every single member country's economy was at one time or another doing better or worse than every other member country's economy. That's the real world. The post-Brexit economic comparison shouldn't be between the UK and Germany. It should be between the UK economy post-Brexit and where the UK economy would be right now if we hadn't left the European Union. And this Aston University report confirms that UK goods exports to the EU would be 27% higher and imported goods 32% higher. This explains the empty shelves that we see so much more often now, and why there's less choice in the shops, and why inflation is higher than it would have been had we not Brexited. And the bizarre thing is, the trend is getting worse. You'd have thought that as businesses adjusted to the new Brexit red tape, well, you'd think that things might by now be getting better, but they're actually getting worse. That's why, despite Keir Starmer's denial of Brexit harms, he nevertheless has decided to stick to the plan to postpone further new import checks and regulations for produce coming in from the EU. He says that rejoining the EU, the single market or the customs union is a red line, that it will never happen in his lifetime. A complete denial of the Brexit cancer at the heart not just of our economy but of our society, isolating the UK, isolating us from social ties, from Erasmus, from other formal scientific and cultural cooperation. A self-imposed cancer. But we're told not to mention it anymore. Move on, they say. Boring. We won. You lost. Get over it. But weirdly, at the same time, they don't want to talk about this glorious victory. The truth is, although 1 in 3 Leave voters has now realised they were misled and regret their vote, the other 2/3 that still insist Brexit is great don't like to be reminded of the evidence of their own stupidity. And more evidence of their stupidity came this week with this headline in the Times. Brexit blunder delays border force fleet replacement until 2030. The failure to exclude shipbuilding from trade rules means costs are set to hit £300 million, while the setbacks will make rescue operations in the Channel harder. Britain's border security is being compromised due to a blunder caused by post-Brexit trade rules that have delayed the replacement of the UK's border force fleet. Apparently, this is all Liz Truss's fault, although she denies it. a consequence of post-Brexit trading rules that dictate that government contracts must be open to international competition. The UK must tender state-funded contracts for non-military vessels to the open market. The rules were agreed by Truss as part of Britain's accession to the World Trade Organization after Britain formally withdrew from the European Union. Angela Eagle, the Labour government's Border Security and Asylum Minister, said, "This is a complete cock-up which encapsulates the shambolic waste and incompetence from the previous government that we are now having to clear up. Whatever the difficulties, we will ensure that this project goes ahead and that these ships are built in Britain. But it should never be forgotten that it was the rank incompetence of the previous government that left us having to wait so long and pay so much to deliver what our country needs." And talking of rank incompetence, let me just show you this now famous photo depicting the useless unpreparedness of the UK's Brexit negotiating team headed by the then Brexit Minister Tory David Davis. The Tory governments from 2010 right through to 2024 didn't prepare for Brexit or its consequences. And 8 years after the referendum, we see this lack of preparedness or foresight result in this headline again from the Times this week. Cars will be stacked at Dover to stop EU border control gridlock. The plans have been drawn up to avert chaos on the roads of Kent once the new European entry-exit system starts in November. A reminder, without Brexit, we'd still be part of Europe and the new entry-exit system. Nothing would have changed. But thanks to Brexit, these plans have had to be drawn up at the 11th hour. Sites are being secured to hold tourist cars bound for the port of Dover in the event of gridlock when strict new EU border controls come into force. Leaders at Ashford Borough Council wrote to MPs on the European Scrutiny Committee, raising concerns about the prospect of 15-hour queues as a result of the new EU entry-exit system. Ministers are now understood to be in the process of signing agreements with landowners so the sites can be opened in the event of gridlock. Gridlock, you ask? Why would that be? Thank you for asking. More than 1.3 million cars use the port of Dover each year. Under the new system, all passengers without EU passports are required to have their fingerprints registered and their pictures taken. These will be captured on first entry into the Schengen zone and then checked at every entry and exit. Passengers may also be asked questions, similar to when arriving in the US, on the purpose of their stay, their planned return journey, and whether they have sufficient funds to cover their stay in Europe. Motorists arriving at the port will queue in lanes to await formalities, and at the front of the queue, an official with a tablet will register passengers in each car. They expect processing each person to take about 2 minutes, meaning that a family car with 4 passengers will take around 8 minutes. So we narrowly escaped gridlock at the end of the Brexit transition period because large parts of the UK were in lockdown and international travel was banned. But with this new entry-exit system, Brexit is about to really hit during Christmas this year, and even more so next Easter, a peak travel time for families. Officials at Dover said ministers are increasingly worried about the system. A source said, "There are so many unknowns. Staff at Dover haven't even seen the tablet they will be using in a couple of months' time to process tens of thousands of passengers." Meanwhile, the government has signed off yet more millions of pounds of extra funding to try to reduce the new impacts of Brexit that are only just beginning to show 8 years after the fateful referendum. And at the same time, our shiny new Labour government are still pretending that they can make Brexit work, even as the untold damage increases year after year.
Welcome to the Brexit, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.